When it comes to the best Warlock builds in Destiny, your initial thought may go to a Prismatic Bleak Watcher setup or some sort of healing build with Well of Radiance or Song of Flame. There are a lot of other good builds, but nothing has really ever came close to those levels. However, all that is going to change today. The build I'm going to be showing off not only can compete with those builds, but in some situations, it may be a little bit better. Going forward, this is going to be my new go-to staple Warlock build that I will never take off, and I think it's one you all should know as well. So strap in, because there is a lot that plays into this, but I will explain everything in detail so you know exactly what's going on. Also, really quick, and I hate saying these things at the beginning of a video, but 74.9% of you all that watch my videos are not subscribed. That being said, if you enjoy learning anything new or just want to be a part of the 25.1%, consider doing all the normal YouTube stuff. Subscribing, liking, checking out my other content is free, and all the support really does go a long way, and I truly appreciate it. And finally, if you would like to come hang out and game with our community, be sure to join our Discord server. All the links will be down below. We would love to have you. But without further ado, let's jump into the build video that's taken me almost 2 weeks to make, and I really hope you all enjoy. So as you probably have already noticed from the gameplay, this is going to be a very aggressive build. If you're more of a passive player, this one might not be your cup of tea, but I would definitely still give it a try because this could change your opinion on that. It's going to have a very similar playstyle to the Consecration Titan, and honestly, it's just as strong. All of the gameplay you're going to see in this video is from mostly master level content and some expert. Unfortunately, as of recording this, Grandmasters were not available, but I can assure you that this build will perform just fine in them. It's personally going to be my #1 contender when I go for solo GMs. So the overall goal of this build and how it's going to work is that you want to build your Transcendence energy as fast as possible, take advantage of some massive buffs that came with this episode, and even play around a whole brand new gameplay mechanic. Once you understand and combine all that together, you get exactly what you're seeing on the screen, and you just cause absolute destruction. So first things first, let's take a look at the most important thing build, and that is going to be our aspect Lightning Surge. So with this aspect, while you are sliding, you can use your melee ability to blink forward and cause a bunch of lightning strikes to come down. These lightning strikes will apply the jolt debuff and grant you a stack of bolt charge per enemy hit. More on bolt charge later. So just looking at Lightning Surge at base, it's already very strong for at clear because it can apply the jolt debuff, but on top of that, since it does apply jolt, it can stun overload champions. I promise we're not going to get sidetracked, but it is worth noting that this build will be able to stun every single champion without the use of any artifact perks, and jolt is just the start. So to get the most use out of your Lightning Surge, you're going to want to take Arcane Needle. This will grant you 3 melee charges that you can use for spamming your surges. Do note that you could also use Arcane Needle to spread Unravel, granting you darkness energy for your Transcendence bar, and it's just nice to have a ranged melee if it's ever needed. The next way to improve Lightning Surge is going to be your exotic class item. The main perk you are looking for is going to be Spirit of Synthesis, so when you are surrounded, you will get a 165% increase to your melee damage. This does work with Lightning Surge, and pairing that with all the jolt that it provides, you can do a ton of damage. Now for a supporting perk, you honestly have 3 options. First off, you have Spirit of the Assassin, so whenever you get a melee or finish your final blow, you will go invisible. But you also have Inmost Light, which I know is a very popular one, so whenever you use an ability, it's going to empower the other 2 and grant them improved generation. And then your final option is just going to be Spirit of Necrotic, so whenever you use your melee attack, you will apply poison just to do some more damage. Like I just mentioned, I know Spirit of Inmost is very popular, but I want to highly recommend Spirit of the Assassin. In my playtime with this build, I never really felt like I needed the extra ability regen from Spirit of Inmost because of everything else going into the build, and with Spirit of the Assassin, every melee kill you get is going to make you invisible, so I cannot stress enough just how strong this is for solo and in-game content. Being able to go invisible every melee kill drastically increases your survivability, and on top of that, if there is any objective that you have to capture, anything you have to interact with, you could just go invisible and do that. Being able to Lightning Surge in on a group of ads, go invisible, then go to the next group of ads, go invisible, it becomes this very fun gameplay loop just with the melee alone, and that's not even talking about the finisher aspect. If you do get finishers, you will also go invisible, so if you ever see an enemy that is finishable close by, always try to do that. We're going to be taking some armor mods that's going to synergize greatly with going for finishers, so you want to be doing it all the time anyway. Now you will just get the added benefit of going to visibility off of that as well. However, I know not everyone has this exact class item, so just know all 3 of the ones I mentioned will work. Even if you just have Synthesis plus anything else randomly, it will also work. The main thing you want is just Synthesis, but I do personally recommend Spirit of the Assassin for your supporting perk. perk. So those are the main ways to increase your potency with Lightning Surge, but of course there are other things in our subclass that will help out with this as well. Looking at you, Bolt Charge. I promise we'll get back to that in a little bit. But for now, let's rapid fire some subclass synergies that's going to help out this build greatly. So the first thing to talk about is Feed the Void. So with this, any ability kill that we get is going to grant us Devour, and with Devour we get grenade energy and health back on every kill. This just means now every Lightning Surge kill we get, we will heal to full, and we will go invisible if you are running Spirit of the Assassin, and then you also get that added benefit of getting grenade energy every single kill. The grenade you're going to want to run is Cold Snap Grenade, because this will freeze enemies. It makes it really easy to hit them with your Lightning Surge, but the main benefit of running Cold Snap is actually going to be Facet of Courage. So your Arc Solar and Void abilities deal increased damage to targets afflicted with darkness debuffs. So since your Cold Snap is freezing targets, this is going to count as a darkness debuff, and you're going to do 10% more damage to them with your Lightning Surge. With the amount of how many times you can spam your grenade and even your Unravel melee ability, you're pretty much always going to be taking advantage of this extra 10% damage. And next up is just going to be Facet of Dawn. So whenever we get a powered melee hit, aka our Lightning Surge, it's going to grant us Radiant. So Radiant did get nerfed this episode to only grant 20% additional damage, but the main reason we're taking this is the fact that if you are Radiant, you will get anti-barrier capabilities for your weapons that don't have champion mods on them. This is going to be our main source of dealing with barrier champions, so you can slide in with Lightning Surge. You're going to get 4 seconds of Radiant. If a champion does put their shield up, you can just shoot a grenade launcher on the ground everywhere and you will take their shield down. So with all that, that means getting a Lightning Surge hit not only can stun an Overload champion, but it also gives you the capability of dealing with barrier champions. And since we're on the topic of champions, it's a good thing to note that Shatter can actually stun unstoppable champions. So your Cold Snap Grenade has you covered for unstops, Fast of Dawn has you covered for anti-barrier, and then your Lightning Surge, of course, has you covered for Overload. Even your Transcendence Grenade with this can also stun Overload because it can suppress enemies, but also it does stasis damage, which will eventually lead to a freeze, so this will also count as a stop champs as well. So with all of those combined together, that is how you can deal with every single champion with just the build alone, not taking advantage of any artifact perks at all. But getting back on track, our next fragment is going to be Faster Protection. So while surrounded by combatants, you are more resistant to incoming damage. While Transcendent, this effect is increased. Since this is a very aggressive build, you are quite literally always going to have this proc. That just means that 90% of the time, this is going to give you a 15% damage reduction. And speaking of 15% damage reduction, it's also worth noting that while you are amplified now, you are now going to get another 15% damage reduction on top of enemies just being able to shoot you less. Amplified did get buffed this episode to provide those benefits, but you will still also have access to all the movement speed increases and everything that we used to know. But that's not the only ways we're going to increase our survivability. We're also going to be taking Facet of Purpose. So if we pick up an Orb of Power, it's going to grant us a benefit based on whatever current super we have equipped. Now, like you probably have already seen in every clip here, I'm running Needle Storm. The reason for that is specifically because of this fragment. Now, whenever we pick an Orb of Power up, it's going to grant us Woven Mail. This gives us a 45% damage resistance that will stack with Amplified and Facet of Protection. All of that damage reduction paired with the full heal from Devour on every kill makes you pretty much unkillable even in in-game content. And then if we loop all the way back with Spirit of the Assassin, not only are you getting all the benefits that was just said, but you also are going invisible every melee kill as well. Now, it is worth noting, if you don't want to run Needle Storm, you can run other things. Winter's Wrath will provide you with Frost Armor, and since it is a Roman super, you will get it back extremely quick. But in all honesty, your Lightning Surge is typically stronger than that super in general. You also have Nova Bomb, so if you want a Void Overshield to grant you more damage reduction, you can, but just know enemies can shoot that one off, whereas Woven Mail is just constantly on you for 5 seconds. And even if you just wanted to go Song of Flame for the restoration, you could do that as well. Pretty much all of the super abilities will work in some way, but Needle Storm is 100% the best in my opinion, because you pretty much get a permanent 45% damage reduction, and also Needle Storm is just a good super in general if you are just doing some single target pulse damage, or you need to just insta-kill some champion that you stun. And then to wrap things up for the subclass, I do take Phoenix Dive just so I can dive to the ground, apply Cure to myself. It also just has the lowest cooldown here. We're not really taking too much advantage of my class ability, but we will have an armor mod that can play into it. And then for the final fragment that will play into our next chapter of the video is going to be Facet of Balance. So rapidly defeating targets with light damage grants melee energy. Rapidly defeating targets with darkness damage grants grenade energy. So the reason I saved this one for last is because it's going to transition us into our weapons. But really quick, just note that any damage from these sources will provide you with these benefits. So if you're going in with Lightning Surge, getting a bunch of kills with that, it's going to just grant you extra melee energy back. So use your melee, grants melee. Or let's say you get a bunch of Needle Storm kills, or somehow your Shatter from your Cold Snap kills a bunch of enemies, you're going to get grenade energy back. Obviously, your grenade and melee are both very strong with this build, so just passively playing the game is just going to grant you more ability energy for those two. But that is going to be the perfect segue into our weapons, and your weapons are going to matter a lot with this build. Mainly because you want to build your Transcendence energy up as fast as possible so you can spam your melee and grenades all the time. Then to do that, you want to take a Darkness weapon in your top slot and some sort of light damage weapon in your energy slot. Without a doubt, if you are just going for pure Transcendence energy building, you want to take an area denial grenade launcher. As you've seen from all of this gameplay, I am quite literally running 2 area denial grenade launchers. Lost Signal with auto loading holster is my Darkness option, so I can shoot it, swap off of it, let it reload in the background, and all of the stasis damage that's just sitting there on the ground is greatly refilling my Darkness Transcendence bar. And then for my next weapon, it is just the Psycho Pump with Pugilist and Rolling Storms. This is my grenade launcher that I keep out all the time. I'm going to constantly shoot it, constantly reload it over and over again. That's mainly because it does have Pugilist on it to grant me more melee energy, and Rolling Storm to grant us Bolt Charge on every kill. It's almost time to talk about Bolt Charge, guys, I promise. But the way I've been using these two is basically just have Psycho Pump as my main weapon. I constantly shoot it, reload it over and over again. When the auto loading of Lost Signal has been reloaded, I'll swap to that, shoot that everywhere so I can build some Darkness energy up. And you can pretty much add clear like crazy with both of these two while constantly building your Transcendence energy, and even just getting your base melee back if you do have the Pugilist Rolling Storm roll on Psycho Pump. Now I do want to point out that the Psycho Pump right here is a must with this build. The main thing you want is just Rolling Storm. You can take any other perk in this column. Pugilist is just the most synergistic with this build, but if you don't have it, don't stress too much. Rolling Storm will be just fine. Now, it is worth noting, if you don't want to run 2 area denial frame grenade launchers, you can also opt in to run anything else. Tenacious Mastery is very good because it is stasis damage, has choke clip. You can even run some sort of shotgun with Trench Barrel, so you can slide in with Lightning Surge, proc Radiant, also proc Trench Barrel, and your shotgun's going to be able to do a ton of damage. Even if you don't want to run double special, which I highly recommend you do, you could also just run any other primary weapon. Any other shotgun here is also going to work just fine. Something like Perfect Paradox is very good because it has Pugilist Trench Barrel, and with its origin trait, it will reload the gun whenever you get a melee hit. Just note that if you are running a kinetic weapon, you're not going to get as much Darkness energy for your Transcendence that you would if you was just running a Darkness weapon. So that's why I tend to try to run Darkness weapons with this specific build. I really like Attila's Return because it is strand and has Trench Barrel and auto loading holster. But I've ran all these and tested them out, and I'm going to be honest with you, the most fun I've had, the strongest I've felt, is with double area denial frame grenade launchers. Again, because you could just build your Transcendence energy up extremely quick. For perk recommendations on the Lost Signal, auto loading is for sure going to be your best in slot. And then if you want to go with one for all, you could do that as well. But I honestly like taking Vorpal just to do some extra boss damage or some damage on a champion. Totally up to you. If you prefer one for all, take that. But I prefer Vorpal since I'm mainly using Psycho Pump for ad clear in general. I can kind of view this more as a single target / Darkness builder. Now for your heavy weapon, it is totally up to you. Obviously, linears are very strong this season with something specifically like Queenbreaker, something like Sleeper Simlet, Anarchy, Tractor Cannon. All of this work very well, and it does open up for the fact that you can just run an exotic heavy because you are running 2 legendary weapons up here. Now, if you want to run some sort of legendary heavy, you totally can as well, for all my Eager Edge fans out there. But just know, if you do run some sort of exotic specialty, something like Euphony, it is going to be a lot harder to build your Darkness energy up than if you just were running a Lost Signal. But obviously, you still get the benefits of running something like Euphony, especially paired with the artifact perks this season. But typically, this is my go-to setup. Double area denial and a Queenbreaker for boss DPS. But before we move on, let's actually take a look back at our Psycho Pump here, and let's take a look specifically at Rolling Storm. So Final Blows grant Bolt Charge, while Amplify, Final Blows grant additional Bolt Charge and increase Bolt Charge stacks when you have none. So I think it's finally time, guys. Let's take a deep dive into Bolt Charge. Alright, Bolt Charge is a brand new mechanic that was added to the game with this episode, and it plays a very massive part into this build. Not only is it going to provide you with extra melee energy, it also is going to allow you to do massive damage with your Lightning Surge as well. So the way Bolt Charge is going to work, you need a way to proc it to begin with. This can either be from your Lightning Surge or Rolling Storm on your Psycho Pump. After you have received a Bolt Charge stack, dealing sustained weapon damage will gradually build up Bolt Charge to 10 stacks. 10 stacks is going to be the max, and then whenever you use an ability or just a basic melee attack on an enemy, you're going to cause a lightning strike to come down. This lightning strike does a ton of single target damage, and since it does activate on abilities, that means your lightning surge will just do more damage since this is the main ability that you're using over and over again. However, do note, if you throw Cold Snap, it will proc it. If you throw your Unravel melee, it will proc it, and we're going to be able to build these Bolt Charge stacks up so quick, we're going to constantly have these lightning strikes coming down everywhere. It's also worth noting that Unravel Threads and Tingle Explosions can proc this, and since we do have Arcane Needle, that means we can take advantage of both of those to spam Bolt Charge even more as well. But now that we know how to get Bolt Charge and understand what it does, let's also take a look at its secondary benefit, and that is the fact that when you gain a stack of Bolt Charge, it's going to grant you 2.5% melee ability energy. This is going to loop all the way back to the beginning of the video where I said Lightning Surge will now grant Bolt Charge on every enemy hit. So this just means now when you go in for a Lightning Surge melee, you're going to get melee energy back because you're getting Bolt Charge stacks. You're going to get melee energy back with Faceted Balance since you are getting multi-kills with light damage. And then if you throw your Psycho Pump with Pugilist and Rolling Storm on top of that, every single kill you're getting with Psycho Pump is obviously granted melee energy with Pugilist, but you're also getting Bolt Charge stacks because of Rolling Storm, which in return is also granting you melee energy and getting to you that times 10 stack faster. So with everything going on in this build, you're pretty much going to have infinite Bolt Charge stacks all the time. And not only are you just getting passive melee energy back while getting these, but you also are going to be able to do massive damage with your abilities. Now, we're not even done there with Bolt Charge yet, because another reason we're running double area denial grenade launchers is not only just for the Transcendence energy, but it's also for gaining Bolt Charge stacks. So since you do shoot air denial grenade launchers, they kind of just sit on the ground, they're constantly doing damage over time, and this is going to constantly refill your Bolt Charge stacks. So this means just shooting your Psycho Pump, if it does get a kill, you get a stack of Bolt Charge, and then all the sustained damage it does after that, you're going to just get to times 10 Bolt Charge stacks very, very quickly. Since you want to shoot these area denial grenade launchers all the time to build your Transcendence energy up, this just means, again, you're passively going to just get to times 10 Bolt Charge stacks extremely quick. All it takes is a single Lightning Surge hit or a single kill from your Psycho Pump to get this chain started, and once it's started, it is pretty much going to go indefinitely. A very strong thing to do, and a reason I like to run Vorpal Weapon, is that you can basically Lightning Surge your balls, get one Bolt Charge stack, shoot your Lost Signal with Vorpal on that. You're going to passively build up these Bolt Charge stacks extremely quick. You can then throw an Unravel, proc the Bolt Charge, and then all of the Unravel threads that are going to be on the boss will constantly keep reproccing Bolt Charge. So if you're getting another Lightning Surge hit, you're basically just going to, again, get max Bolt Charge stacks with your Psycho Pump or Lost Signal, and you're going to keep discharging this over and over again. While you are Transcendent, it is extremely easy to do. You can even take advantage of it when you're not Transcendent, but just know when you are Transcendent, you can basically throw an Arcane Needle, throw your Transcendent Grenade, get a single Bolt Charge hit, and you could just keep dispelling these Bolt Charges over and over and over again and just do a ton of damage. Bolt Charge is such a fun new gameplay mechanic to play around. It's also very strong, and with this build, you don't even really have to play around it because you're just going to be passively at max stacks all the time. But since it is a new gameplay mechanic, and I know I may have went over some things pretty quickly, definitely be sure to leave a comment if you have any questions, even if it's not even related to this build. But once you get the flow of this build down, adding Bolt Charge on top of it just takes it to another level. But now let's jump into stats and armor mods. So first off, we're going to be running 100 resilience to get 30% damage reduction, which will stack with things like protection and even woven mail from purpose. Remember, Amplify will also grant you 15%, and pairing that with Feed the Void to constantly heal on every ability kill, you are pretty much unkillable. Next up is going to be 100 strength, so we can get our melee back as fast as possible. This just means we can spam our lightning surges a lot more often. Pairing that with things like Pugilist and Rolling Storm to get our Bolt Charge stacks, you can spam your melee quite literally all the time. Then finally, it's just 100 discipline, so we can use our grenade a lot more often. And again, our grenade of choice will be Cold Snap. Pairing that with Devour, we're going to be able to spam it even more. And again, with Cold Snap, we're going to be able to build our Transcendence energy up a lot quicker and deal 10% more damage to whatever enemy that we use Lightning Surge on. Now, as an overview, these are the armor mods I'm running if you'd like to copy them down. But as a more in-depth look, first off, we're going to be taking a Arc Siphon and a Stasis Siphon in our helmet. This is going to be very strong because it now gives our Psycho Pump and our Lost Signal a way to make Orbs of Power. Orbs of Power are going to be very strong in this build because, again, it will provide you with Woven Mail, it will grant you extra super energy, it will also grant you extra ability energy based on some of our other armor mods, and it even will grant us armor charge to play into some other things as well. If you are not running Psycho Pump and Lost Signal specifically, be sure to swap these out for whatever elemental weapon you are running. If they ever add a Area of Denial Strand Grenade Launcher, I will obviously swap the Stasis Siphon off for a Strand one. Now, our next armor mod is going to be hands-on, so we gain bonus super energy on melee kills. And to go into our arms really quick, we also are going to be running triple heavy-handed, so whenever we get a melee kill, we will create an Orb of Power. So with these two, we now have a further way to amplify our melee ability. Since we are running 3 heavy-handeds, that means every single time we get a powered melee kill, we will make an Orb of Power. Again, this is going to be very strong for all the previous reasons that we just listed talking about our Siphon mods, but we also get to take advantage of hands-on, so whenever we get melee kills, we get bonus super energy. Since 80% of this build is based around getting melee kills, this just means we're going to make infinite orbs for our teammates while also passively granting us extra super energy so we can spam Needle Storms a lot more often. Now, for our chest piece, always growth resistant mods, just always swap these out for whatever content that you are going into. And then for our boots, this is where things get really interesting. So we have Invigoration, Orbs of Restoration, and Absolution. So all 3 of these mods are going to be based on picking orbs up. Since we can make orbs all the time with both our Area of Denial Grenade Launchers and even our melee ability, that means we're going to constantly get benefits out of these. So with Invigoration, that means we're going to get 10% melee energy every single time we pick an Orb of Power up. And then with Orbs of Restoration, we're going to get 10% ability energy based on whatever our least cooldown ability is. Obviously, you will get the most benefit out of this if it does grant melee energy, but even if it grants class ability or grenade, just being able to spam those a lot more is great as well. And then with Absolution, we're going to get 5% ability energy for all of our abilities, again, every single time we pick an orb up. So basically with this, you can go in for a Lightning Surge kill, you're going to get melee energy back from Fast and Bravery, you're going to get melee energy back for granting Bolt Charge, and now you're going to get melee energy back from picking up the orb you make with your heavy-handed mods because of all 3 of these mods right here. It is just an insane way to constantly spam Lightning Surges over and over again, and once again, on top of all that, you will also be getting that 45% damage reduction from Woven Mail. And then finally, for our class item, this is where everything is going to loop back all the way back to Spirit of the Assassin, and that is simply for the fact that we're going to be running Proximity Ward and Special Finisher. So with Proximity Ward, every single time we go for a finisher, it's going to grant us a powerful overshield. So between all the damage reduction and healing sources that we provided in this video, now if you throw this overshield on top of all of that, you are quite literally unkillable and even the hardest content in the game. And since we are running Spirit of the Assassin, when you get out of that finisher, you are also going to go invisible. So you're unkillable when you're going for the finisher, and then once you get out of it, you will be invisible and also amplified, so enemies will just shoot you way less, and you can get out of whatever situation you're in, or even go for another Lightning Surge melee, which again will make you invisible again because of Spirit of the Assassin. Now, as mentioned, we also are going to be running special finishers. So if you have 3 armor charge stacks, that means when you go for a finisher, you are now going to make special ammo. I cannot stress just how strong this is because with our double Area of Denial Grenade Launchers, this pretty much means we're going to have infinite special ammo. We are literally always going to be at 3 armor charge stacks because of all the orbs we're making between our Siphon mods and heavy-handed. So that means now every time you go for a finisher, you are just making special ammo for you and your team. And you always want to be going for finishers because you will go invisible off of them and have the overshield from Proximity Ward. All of this just synergizes together so well, and since you are going to be in the fight 24/7, again, if you ever see a finishable enemy, just go for it. You're going to be unkillable and you're going to create ammo for you and your team. And then for the final mod on our class item is just Powerful Attractions. So whenever we use our class ability, it will just pick up all the orbs around us. Again, we're not going to be taking too much advantage of our Phoenix stuff, kind of like I said earlier. It's more of just like a I'm about to die button, let me pop it. But you do now also get the added benefit of granting Orbs of Power, which will grant everything else that we've already went over in the build. Now we're not done there yet, and there is specifically a reason I have not went over the artifact yet, and I saved it for last. The main reason for that is because you don't have to run the artifact with this build at all. If you never take a single perk in your artifact, you will still be able to deal with every single champion in the game. You will still get every single benefit that we've already went over in the game, and you could just view the artifact as a cherry on top of already one of the strongest builds in the game. Since you don't have to take advantage of artifact perks with this build, that is why I personally think it is going to be the next meta Warlock build that you will see alongside League Watcher, if not even above it. However, to make this build even stronger than it already is, let's take a look at some of the ways we can actually amplify it with the artifact. All right, starting from left to right, we can first take a look at overclock and load. So when we're amplified or have a bolt charge, our arc weapons are going to have increased handling and reload. This is great because Psycho Pomp is going to take advantage of this all the time. Next up, we can take Dielectric. So whenever we defeat an arc debuff target, it will grant us Bolt Charge. Since our Lightning Surge will debuff a target with Jolt, that means this is going to grant us Bolt Charges just for hitting enemies. And also the artifact perk will just grant us additional bolt charge stacks. Next up is going to be Photonic Flare. So if you ever defeat a severed or exhausted target with arc damage, that means you're going to create a blinding burst. So if your teammates are running stuff like Sever, say you have a hunter with their threaded needle, they can sever everything, you can then kill it with Lightning Surge, and you cause these blinding bursts, which is good. Typically your Lightning Surge is going to always kill the enemies, and the blinding burst doesn't really matter, but I figured I'd throw it in there. But next up is going to be Flashover. So when you gain maximum bolt charge, you will also become amplified, and lightning bolts deal more damage. This was great because again, you're going to be pretty much at max bolt charge all the time, so you're always going to get amplified. But on top of that, now your bolt charges are going to do more damage. But next up is Dreadful Finisher. So whenever we finish Powerful Combatants, we'll make special ammo. If we do finish Subjugators, Tormentors, Champions, it makes more. This will obviously pair with Special Finisher, so we can just grant even more special ammo to have pretty much infinite ammo for our double special setup. And then things like Defibrillating Blast. So whenever we summon a champion, it's going to grant us maximum stacks of bolt charge. It will also trigger an arc bolt that's going to heal us and jolt the enemy at damages. So since this is granting us maximum bolt charge stacks, that in return means we're getting amplified, which we can then discharge the bolt charge to do more damage. On top of all this, we're jolting the target, healing. You can already see how these four combine together. Just take all the arc ones, and it's going to make it a lot better. And now for the final one, it's just Power Reconstruction. So whenever we dealing sustained damage with fusions and linears, we can get more damage with them. So typically, again, linears are pretty much the go-to meta at this point. So Queen Breaker, Sleeper, anything you want to take, now you're just going to be able to do more damage. And not only do you have just a disgusting amount of ad clear, you also have a crazy amount of single target damage because of the linears, because of bolt charge, and just everything else is going on in the build. But again, I do want to point out, you don't have to run a single artifact perk here, and this build will perform just as well as it does without them. All right, I know I've said a lot, so let's do a quick little recap right here. First things first, Lightning Surge is going to jolt targets and grant bolt charge. We're going to be able to get melee energy back because of that bolt charge, and also because of balance, we're going to get multiple light enemy kills, so we're going to get melee energy back. Since we are getting the ability to kill with Lightning Surge, we will also proc Devour, so we can spam our grenade a lot. Cold Snaps are very good for stunning unstoppable champions, makes it very easy to get our Lightning Surge ready to go, and it also grants us Darkness Transcendence energy. Lightning Surge will obviously grant us Transcendence energy as well, and it also does provide Jolt to stun overload champions. We're taking Arcane Needle to have 3 charges for Lightning Surge, and again, Arcane Needle is also just good to spread Unravel around. That can also proc Bolt Charge. We're going to get a ton of damage reduction between Purpose, Protection as well here, and since we are going to be able to freeze targets, we can take advantage of Courage to 10% more damage, and then also we're going to get Radiant 24/7 because we will always be going for Lightning Surge kills, and since we are Radiant, we can make our weapons have barrier capabilities. For our weapons, things like Psycho Pomp with Pugilist and Rolling Storm to get a bunch of melee energy back, also to proc Bolt Charge initially if you don't have a Lightning Surge, which almost never happens, but you can actually get it from Rolling Storm. We also have Lost Signal for double area denial, so we can just build our Transcendence energy up extremely quick. Light damage, darkness damage everywhere, and on top of building that Transcendence energy, this also will provide us with greatly increased Bolt Charge stacks, so we can again just keep discharging it over and over again with all of our abilities. For our heavy, it's completely up to you. Linears are the meta this season, so I would definitely recommend a linear. Resilience, Discipline, Strength for your stats distribution, so you can spam everything else we've been mentioning. And then for our armor mods, Triple heavy-handed, double Cypher here to make as much orbs as possible. Hands-on to get some extra super energy. For our boots, we're taking all 3 of these to get even more melee energy back. And then for our class lineup, again, with Synthesubs and Assassin, we're going to make our Lightning Surge do a lot more damage. We can go invisible on every melee kill. And then with Assassin, every time we get a finisher, we go invisible. We can also play into that with Proximity Ward and special finishers. So we get a Overshield, we go for a finish. We get special ammo when we go for a finish. And with Powerful Attraction, we can pick all the orbs up that we make with our class ability, which again is going to be Phoenix style because it does have the lowest cooldown and can apply Cure. Again, this is more of just a I'm about to die button, let me pop this, and you pretty much rehealed to full. But I think that is it. Again, it is worth noting that you want to be in Transcendence all the time so you can spam your abilities, and your Transcendence Grenade can suppress, slow, and freeze targets. So this alone is stunning Overload and Unstoppables, and it also is taking advantage of Fastest Courage, so you can do 10% more damage. I think one final thing to point out is that if you want to take Facet of Dominance here, you can, because this will apply Weaken with your Transcendence Grenade, which is only a 15% in your Transcendence, whereas if you take Courage, it's 10% all the time, so your Cold Snap Grenade, your Unravel can also apply it. So I think Courage is a little bit better in my opinion, but if you want to go for maximum damage, you could even swap out something like Balance and then put on Facet of Dominance here. But I don't really think it's needed. I think this is going to do you just fine. You're going to get your abilities back extremely quick. You're going to get your Transcendence extremely quick. You can take advantage of all the champions, yada, yada, yada. I think you've all had enough of my yapping about this, but I hope I explained it very well and just to show you how strong this build is. But now for the final part of the build, and the most important, this is the Transmog I am running. I didn't have any specific theme I was going for here. I kind of just threw some stuff together and took advantage of one of the new shaders, and I think it actually turned out looking pretty sick. I will say, obviously I went for a sort of splicer look here with the splicer gauntlets, the chest piece, the helmet, I guess, low-key, and the boots just went really well with the shader specifically. I did get the new class item for the Warlock, and I wanted to make it work, but unfortunately it has a green glow, and the green just kind of offsets kind of like the red and like grayish tones you have going on here. Overall, I think this Warlock setup actually turned out looking pretty sick, and if you want to make your Warlock look like this, definitely be sure to copy it down. Oh, and I definitely tried to take advantage of furs because we have it on the waist, the neck, and the head up here. For some reason to me, fur gives off aggression vibes, and that's kind of what I was going for with that. But that is going to do it all for this build. Let me know what y'all think about it in the comments below. This is probably going to be my longest build video on the channel, but I think it will be worth it because again, it's one I think every Warlock should understand how to play and what could potentially become the new Warlock meta from here on out. So if you did make it this far in the video, I truly appreciate it. I'm currently at 1 hour and 30 minutes recording time. I don't know how long it's going to be once I chop everything down. Probably a good amount less than that, but we'll have to wait and see. If you did make it this far and you enjoy, be sure to just drop Bolt Charge the comment below, I guess. Maybe we'll confuse a lot of people and just have a ton of fun down there. I'll try to go through and leave a heart on every single one of those comments. But this build genuinely is some of the most fun I've had on Warlock in a while, and I just really hope Bungie does not nerf this. The only thing I potentially could see them nerf relatively soon is the amount of Bolt Charge stacks you get from air denial grenade launchers. But other than that, I think we are good to go with this build. And even if they do end up changing that specific thing, it'll still be very strong. Anyway, though, that is going to do it all for me. I wish you all the best of luck putting this build together for yourself. I want to thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you all have a great day. Peace.